happy day. That's what today was supposed to be, a happy day. Edward Sully pulled into the lone empty parking space in front of the Community and Development Office. The grey Mustang came to a stop just shy of the future homeowner sign at the end of the parking space. Edward sat in the idling vehicle for a minute, asking himself if he was really going to go through with this. He had to. He pulled down the visor and flipped up the plastic lid to the car's mirror. His hazel eyes looked tired. He was tired. He removes his black cap and runs his hand over his shaved head. A deep breath and sigh before he places his cap back on and turns the car off. He exits and adjusts his black jeans and fitted grey t-shirt. He had always been a bit thin, but especially so now. He hadn't been eating much lately with so much life going on. He walks up to the front door of the office, which was just a model home with a guest bedroom converted into an office space where paperwork was done. Before he could reach for it, the door swings open. A tall blonde man with a great, paid-for tan smiles. "Hello, welcome to Sigma Communities. Come on in." Edward smiles and nods as he walks past the man into the hallway lobby. There is a table runner next to him that has pamphlets and different floor plans and options. Some are plans of custom homes, the others are plans for inventory homes that are ready to sell. "Hey, I'm Michael, lead salesman here at Sigma. Tell me you want to make this your new home." The tall model-like man says through a seemingly genuine smile as he extends a hand. "I may. I'm Edward Sully." He replies as he grabs the man's hand, giving it a firm shake. The two proceed into the office, just past the entrance to the model home, and Michael invites Edward to sit in one of two chairs opposite the desk with the bedroom window behind him. Edward sits and zeroes in on the 22-inch computer monitor on the desk as Michael signs in and opens various Sigma menus and pictures of homes. "Okay, Mr. Sully, you tell me what I have to do to get you into your new home today," Michael says, smiling. Edward explains to Michael that he is a first-time home buyer and that he is a 100% disabled veteran wanting to possibly use his VAR home loan benefit. The two proceed into a 2-hour conversation, going over the many details in buying a home and especially the details of doing it via a VAR loan. There are many perks and benefits to being a disabled veteran and using one's earned home loan that Edward finds surprising. After an information dump, Michael can tell Edward is overwhelmed and offers to decompress and show Edward one of the inventory homes that is within his loan budget, one that is currently move-in ready. The two walk outside and into Michael's 2-door Tesla. Edward takes notice and guesses Michael must do well for himself in the real estate market. They drive a short distance from the sales office through the neighborhood, much of which is still being built. All of these homes are brand new, Edward. Everyone living here is the first to do so, Michael proudly states. They come to a dead-end cul-de-sac and Michael pulls into the empty driveway of a pristine, brand new, single-story home. This is it, it's move-in ready. Well, after we put in the brand new stove, fridge, washer and dryer, and dishwasher, that is, but that's a one-day thing tops. So I'd be able to start moving in immediately? Edward asks as he and Michael walk up to the front door. Michael punches in the code on the lock to the keyless entry front door. Well, yes and no. We have to wait for the VAR inspector to come, and then wait for all the paperwork to clear, and then, on closing day, you will be ready to move in. It really is a fast process when the home is as finished as this one is, and the financial situation is as clean and ready to go as yours. Michael opens the front door, and the two proceed inside. It is beautiful with state-of-the-art everything and smells of brand new paint and wood. Michael takes Edward room to room, pointing out every detail and bragging over every feature and modern luxury the brand new home comes equipped with. 3-bedroom, 2 baths and 2-car garage. You guys get the master and make the kids fight over the smaller rooms, am I right? Michael smiles as he motions to the bedrooms. Edward smiles sadly, picking up on the joke. Well, fortunately, I get them all to myself. Michael does a double take and turns to Edward. So, no wife, husband, kids, just you. Edward half grins. Just me. Michael, sensing he's hit a nerve, picks the mood back up as best he can. Bachelor's life it is. Hell of a spot to throw a party, he says excitedly as he continues the tour. After more information and the in-depth walkthrough, the two stand in the open concept living room. I'll tell you what, Why don't I step outside and take a call I've been forwarding all evening and give you a min to check stuff out on your own and process it all? Edward nods in agreement as Michael steps out front into the driveway and leans on his Tesla while placing his phone to his ear. Edward slowly walks through the home once more, this time not focusing on the bells and whistles, but instead on the home itself. He asks himself if he needs this, if it is too much, and can he afford it monthly on a fixed budget of veteran disability. He remembers that rent in a simple, one-bedroom apartment is $1,100 a month or more, plus utilities, while the estimated mortgage in this huge house is only $800. The salesman was right. Why sink over $1,000 a month into an apartment that you would never own when you could work towards buying a home and investing in yourself? Still, Edward was afraid. Afraid to fail, afraid that owning a home was too big for him. Edward had come from a very poor family. This would be the first time he had ever lived in an actual house of his own. His family had always lived in run-down slum lord apartments, the kind that if you owned a car that was worth much of anything would run the risk of being broken into or the wheels taken. If it wasn't run-down apartments, it was trailers in low-income parks. He remembers his childhood. How many times had his family had to move in the dead of night because his folks couldn't make rent and were always being evicted? How many schools had he been to growing up? He lost count. No, he had to do this, if not for the principle of doing more than his family ever had, then for the fact it's really the only way he could afford a place to live with rent prices being so outrageous. He walks towards the living room where he is met by Michael. So, how do you feel about it? The numbers fit, and with you being a 100% disabled veteran, we can work magic as far as property tax exemptions go. If you can handle the mortgage and homeowner's fee, which when we ran your numbers you could, then this can be your home, Edward. Edward looks around the room. He walks into the kitchen and runs his fingers across the granite countertop and nods. Let's do it. Time drags on as paperwork is filed, more numbers are crunched, and all the intricacies are worked out for such a huge purchase. The day to close comes and Edward sits in front of a small black woman inside of Sigma's main office. She prepares an intimidating stack of papers to be signed and assures Edward she will go over all information inside with him. Edward starts to feel the familiar feeling of sadness growing inside him. This was supposed to be a happy day, of course, but he begins to find the feeling fleeting as he is constantly reminded he is alone. He knows he is not the first person to buy a home alone. Plenty of real estate investors, businessmen, and repeat home buyers do. He tells himself it will be okay, despite teeth-grinding nerves working against him. He just can't shake the feeling that this is a process families usually go through, or couples, or just anything other than this. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just his own mind and depression playing upon his already tired mental state, but still, he presses on. After the meticulous task of signing a novel's worth of forms is complete, the woman smiles as she pumps a gob of hand sanitizer into her hands. Congratulations, Mr. Sully, on your new home. Home. Edward is reminded of his lonely situation when the time comes to move just after closing on the home. He has no family left alive, and he drives a Mustang. This problem leads to the only solution he can think of: hire someone to help. His funds are limited, it all went into the home, so he finds a man who is out of work in the neighborhood and pays him. After a small moving truck rental and a full day and night of moving, Edward is finally home. His home. Another 2 weeks go by before he is unpacked and his belongings put away where they should be. But at long last, he can breathe and rest. During his unpacking and sleeping on a mattress on the floor, Edward realizes that he had not explored his neighborhood. The thought never crossed his mind. Edward is so conditioned to staying inside that he completely forgets that this place, this home, is not the same as he had been raised in and around all his life. There are no drug dealers and prostitutes moving about the corners, no sirens and shady characters to harass him, and he doesn't run the risk of being mugged or robbed walking around this place. Being inside for this long with no contact is taking its toll on him, and he feels a long walk around his neighborhood could be just what he needs to allow that negative emotion to seep into the night sky. It's always night when Edward is out. In all honesty, it's almost always night when he is awake. He rarely sees the sun. a horrible side effect of insomnia caused by a slew of mental and emotional issues as a result of the chronic PTSD he has carried since the war. During the day, he is plagued with narcolepsy, which causes him to be in a constant drained state, and at night, he is wide awake, a terrible combination. This is combated by 9 different medications he receives from his local VAR, a cocktail that was years in the making between him, his therapist, and his psychiatrist. It is as good as it will get for him. He makes peace with the fact that he will never be okay or normal again, so he takes the small relief given and keeps going through whatever life he has left. A walk tonight will cure this, he hopes, so he grabs his hat and keys and walks out of his front door at just after midnight. As he moves from sidewalk to sidewalk, he appreciates this working-class neighborhood. Everyone is asleep. It is quiet and empty all around. Where he was from, it would be bustling with movement and activity because it is most profitable when the sun goes down. He has time to think, so he does, and he keeps walking. He passes homes still being built and steps over caked clay and mud from the workers that build them during the day. As he turns one of the last streets in the developing neighborhood, he notices movement just behind him a few feet back on the sidewalk. He turns and sees a dark, smoky gray cat. It is surely not fat, but looks thick because of its fur. It resembles a Himalayan in breed, but he is still not sure. He finds it fascinating all the same. Edward had always preferred cats over dogs. Dogs were amazing to Edward, but they didn't live as long on average, and he was tired of losing loved ones. He also knows that cats are much quieter and require less maintenance. If you feed the animal, give it water, and clean its litter regularly, then that is basically the hard part. "Hey there, buddy. You want to join me on my walk?" Edward asks the cat as he makes clicking noises. The feline just stares at him motionless. Edward has learned to respect animals. They will come to you if they want to, and when they are ready. He also appreciates how cats that live outdoors can have a healthy fear of humans, as not all of them are kind to cats. Probably a good idea to be cautious, friend. I won't hurt you, but the next one of my kind may. You're welcome to tag behind me, though. Edward continues walking, but does not ignore the fact that his 4-legged friend is tailing him, keeping a solid 10 feet apart at all times. Edward doesn't mind. He begins to talk out loud to the cat, telling it of his day and his feelings. As Edward approaches his home after an hour-long stroll, the cat stops at the end of his walkway. Edward turns to the cat as he stands inside the doorway of his home. "Thanks for the company, buddy. Stay sharp out here." Edward continues his nightly walks, and with him, so does his dark, shadow-like companion. As time moves forward, Edward becomes increasingly sad. He is now tortured by even having a home. You don't really realize what lonely is, most people don't. Many people claim to be alone in life. They say it off the cuff and casually use it as a way to establish independence or to fish for sympathy. A lot of them don't realize that even being able to complain to someone that you are alone, in essence, proves you are not alone. Most people say they are alone when, in reality, they just choose to be. It could either be bad blood between family, a falling out, or the same with friends. It could be romance or any number of reasons that would make one choose to be alone, and it usually is not permanent. Edward, however, is alone, his family all dead, his friends with them, and now the very will to change it. The memory of the war playing into his demons, crippling anxiety, depression, and a horrible sleeping schedule make it nearly impossible to establish any meaningful relationship, be it friendly or romantic. Could he create a life where people exist in his world? Yes, he can. But when one's will is broken and hope extinguished, it is asking the impossible. In the same way, a rich man could walk into the poorest areas and proclaim, "I don't know why you are all so poor, just make more money." Sounds good on paper, even logical, but it's just not probable. He has made progress, however, over 5 years in the VAR system since the war and a failed suicide attempt. He has worked close with his therapist to get him where he is today. He has leveled off, however. The state he is in now mentally and physically is as good as it will get. This is fine. He will try and manage, even though he is more alone now than ever before. In the past he was in the same place as far as friends and family goes, but he did always at least have a girlfriend. Now even she is gone, for faults that are his own. She wanted him, but he wouldn't allow her to have him. He couldn't allow her. He blamed his PTSD. He uses it as a crutch to explain the horrible things he's done to her. But his situation is still the same. He is utterly alone in this world. He hates going out during the evening as people are getting home from work. He sees fathers embracing their children as they walk inside. He sees families gathering outdoors and kids playing or couples enjoying their new home, while he is in fact the only person living alone for miles. He stops feeling sorry for himself. He always feels sorry for himself. Even in his own mind, he hates how he sounds. The constant whining and bitching. Woe is me, the favorite pastime of Edward these days. Even his therapist is tired of him. She will never admit it. It would be against her own rules to do so, and would surely reflect poorly on her career-wise. She has exhausted all means of treatment with him, and is now reduced to being his only friend, albeit paid to do so. Their visits now consist of him basically telling her about his week. She nods, and each session tries to recommend him to another therapist. Under the guise of different treatment plans, she is, in truth, trying to get rid of him, trying to pawn him off to another therapist after years of hearing him tell his story and complain. So he doesn't anymore. These days, he simply smiles and tells her he is okay. Edward can hear her now asking at the end of every session, "It was good to talk to you, Edward. Are you safe? Nothing for me to be worried about, right?" The Vi is required to ask such things following the massive epidemic of suicides amongst returning combat veterans. He nods and smiles that he is okay and silently sinks, hoping the week passes quickly so he can once again bore her with his conversation. It's better than nothing. It would be a lie to say Edward had no hope of gaining friends or even a relationship. In fact, many women have sought him out. He isn't horrible on the eyes, and at 35 is still fairly young. He is a home owner and has a nice car. While he is not rich by any stretch, he is secure for now. He also has many people reach out to him for friendship. The various conditions and emotional issues he deals with cripple him, leaving him constantly drained or insecure. Everyone will always leave him. They will leave or die or find better. It is the only sure thing in his life. The one certainty is that everything and everyone in his life is only temporary. Even his new home he treats as if it were an expensive hotel. He babies every knob and faucet. Only uses one bathroom at times, even urinating in the backyard, because in his mind, it's less wear and tear on the plumbing. He does not use the stove, dishwasher, and seldom the washer and dryer. Why would someone be so extreme? What would cause one to live this way? The simple answer is even this he does not expect to keep. Even his home is on loan by fate. Life is simply letting him house sit until a real family buys it. This isn't for him. This is a home meant for a family. Kids, mom, dad, even a dog are meant to fill this place with noise and memories, not this one man surrounded by emptiness and silence. These are more thoughts that he fights as he takes yet another nightly walk. His walks become longer, more driven as he battles with himself to stay grounded. He loses time more and more now. He doesn't feel himself even walking. He covers distance, but can't remember doing it as his mind jumps from war, the experiences he had there, and then returning home to bury his family. His mind never finds peace. Every moment he is conscious hurts. While he walks, tears begin to form behind his eyes, as he looks up to the 3M sky and mouths silently to whatever he thinks is up there looking down. Please do something. Please help me. I don't even know what to ask for anymore, but please just do something. Silence and emptiness, of course. He didn't really expect anything to happen. It was more of just a reaction, a reflex of internal pain. His soul and spirit had stubbed its toe on the bed frame and simply cried out. He knew nothing would happen. It never does. Edward is not alone, however. His fellow nocturnal being watches him, as it always does. The cat stares from its still safe distance as Edward stands in the mud of a freshly rained day. He always does. How many nights has this dark cat walked with the tortured man? He does not know. Edward walks back to his home with the shadow in tow, as per usual. This night, however, Edward is prepared. He looks back at the cat perched statuesque at the end of his walkway, staring at him. I bet you're hungry. I know I suck. I should have fed you long ago. Edward says as he disappears inside his home and ventures to the kitchen. He emerges with some cat food and cat treats he bought at the store a day prior. He pours some down at the end of his door and steps back inside, still staring at the cat. The feline does not move, instead it just stares at Edward. Its eyes fixated on the man whose tears are freshly drying, creating crust in the corners of his eyes. Not hungry, huh? You must belong to someone. Any other stray would have been on this. Well, I'll leave it here in case you just want me gone before you eat. Good night, my friend. The shepherd arrives, it's time to go. 11:15 p.m. Edward stands in his living room staring at pictures he's hung on the wall. One wall in particular is his pride and joy, but also a source of his pain. It is a wall commemorating his service during the Iraq War. His eyes slowly pan from picture to picture, his mother, his father, his brother and grandparents. All gone now. His mind darts from face to face, remembering the moment and time he learned of each one's passing. Even losing his uncle and extended family stabs through him. His eyes fix on the American flag display in the center, the one commonly found in veterans' homes. It is a black box with the American flag folded in the center. Around it are pictures of Edward in uniform and below that hang various medals awarded in service. His eyes begin to leak. He remembers friends lost there, some he has now aged beyond. They are forever frozen at 19, 22, 27, 31, 43 and 20. Whatever they would have been, whatever they hoped to be is gone now. Now they are simply statistics, a part of something kids will read in history books. Faceless humans that did something and died in some war a long time ago, same as the ones he had read about growing up. 7 months he has been in his home, 7 months, and no one knocks on the door. His phone does not ring. The only sounds he hears inside his home is the ticking of clocks and the many conversations that play in his mind from memories long past. His heart begins to race as he feels his anxiety returning. He does the only thing he can and rushes for the front door. He needs it gone, needs the pain, the heavy feeling inside to lift away. He is instead stopped in his tracks by the small shadow at the end of his walkway. The cat stares at him. It is looking through him in a way he hasn't seen before. Maybe it is nothing. Maybe Edward's own mind is working against him as it so often does. But he steps back into the home. He begins to feel a sense of calm. Make no mistake, the anxiety is still there. The depression also in full swing. But it's like calmness in the chaos. It's as if one is bitten by a poisonous snake and venom is moving through your bloodstream. Experts say that, though you have been bitten and injected by a lethal amount of venom, you must remain calm as to not speed your blood flow. Edward feels himself sinking, but he moves slow and calm back inside and closes the door. A strange sense of familiarity sets over him as he walks up to the wall where his memories hang. He stares at them as a tear weaves down his face. He then turns the living room television on and changes the channel to a reality TV show about people searching, looking at, and buying their dream homes. Such a random act, yet he seems pleased as he proceeds into his bedroom. I just need to chill. It's just you, man. You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. Edward thinks to himself as he grabs his bottle of anxiety pills. He lays in the queen-sized bed of the master bedroom, with the light from the living room television flickering throughout the dark home. He looks up above him as the ceiling fan slowly circulates. His mouth becomes parched, and he reaches next to him towards his nightstand for the bottle of water he normally has. His hand knocks it off the table, and he hears it hit the carpet. He slightly grins. Fuck it. He feels heavy. His body feels sluggish as he slowly turns to his side and brings his knees closer to his chest, curling into a ball. He feels one last tear roll out of his eye as it shuts and rolls over the bridge of his nose. Edward awakens to a strange sound. Something must be in the attic. He opens his eyes and allows them to adjust to the darkness as he continues to hear scratching. He is slightly annoyed that a new home would already have a pest in the attic, but possums tend to make these areas their home. He drags himself up and stands in the darkness. The scratching still echoes throughout the quiet home. It is definitely not coming from the attic. This is coming from the living room. The home is pitch black. The television in the living room is a smart TV and has now shut itself off on an internal timer to be more energy efficient, leaving Edward to use his hands to navigate to the master bathroom light switch. He fingers around wildly in the area where the switch should be, and finally his aim is true. The switch is flipped and the bathroom illuminated. Edward turns around and a strange feeling washes over him. A panic fills his mind as he can't make sense of what he is seeing. Edward stands in the doorway of the bathroom and bedroom, but is looking at himself in bed. He lies on his side curled into a ball with a bottle of water on the floor next to the bed. He rushes over to himself and stops utterly confused and terrified. Next to him in bed is an empty bottle of anxiety medication, a small white foam oozing from his lips, but otherwise he looks at peace. Edward wants to wake himself. He wants to reach out and grab himself by the shoulders and shake, but he does not. His mind begins to calm as he understands. What would that do? What would change? He'd wake up and maybe be saved, maybe spend more time at the VAR for another suicide attempt in the hospital. In the end, this is what he would return to, the empty, the quiet. This is always what it was going to be, so he stops. The scratching continues behind him as he walks backwards a few steps, his eyes fixated on himself in bed. He turns away from the sight and slowly walks into the living room through the darkness and to the front door. It is quiet, eerily quiet. There are no car alarms, no doors shutting, and no traffic moving. Even the wind seems to be still as he reaches for the doorknob. He opens it slowly and looks down. It's you, isn't it? Edward softly speaks in a calm tone as he looks down at the dark cat. The cat slowly turns away and walks to the end of the walkway. It stops and looks over its shoulder at Edward and waits. For so many nights, Edward had taken the lead on their walks, but this night he understands the feline wants him to follow. Edward nods understandingly and shuts the front door behind him. He walks out and notices everyone and everything is gone and quiet. Where cars were once parked in driveways were now empty spaces. No lights are on and no movement at all is seen, heard, or felt. Edward watches the cat make several more steps toward the center of the road, a road that is not complete in its construction. It leads to a forest that the community was built near. It is the same dark forest from which he first met his feline companion. The cat continues to walk and look back, making sure Edward is close. They approach the edge of the forest and the cat stops. It walks over to Edward and rubs against his leg. Prior to this moment, it had never allowed him to get close. It looks up at Edward in a calming manner and walks a few feet ahead and stops halfway in the darkness and halfway illuminated by a faint street light. It beckons for Edward to follow. Edward nods understandingly and follows behind his shepherd into the inky blackness. My name is Summer Donovan, and I had a dream. No, if I'm honest, I keep having a dream. The same damn dream, over and over. It's a house, 2 stories and white. I can see it, because I'm there, always there, when the dream starts. I'm standing in front of this house about 20 feet out from the beautiful wrap-around porch, staring at the windows. 5 windows on top and 4 on the bottom. All the same height, with the 4 on the bottom separated in the middle, exactly by a beautiful, heavy wooden door. There is a swinging chair at the right-hand side of the porch, and just to the right of the door are 2 rockers and a kind of outdoor love seat with a small, metal-worked table in the center for people to place drinks. The roof is a kind of teal green with a smokestack from the fireplace on the far right that I bet feels wonderful in the winter. I can guess in my dream it is always fall because the woods that sprawl behind the property are a fire orange and brown. As I make my way up and onto the wrap-around porch, I can see into the windows of the first story with the drapes pulled back and blinds opened. There are no lights on and no people seem to be inside. In fact, it seems to always be sometime during the night. I feel so at peace here, so drawn and naturally at ease. Like when you move out, but return to your parents' home, it will always have that comforting feeling to it, familiar and warm. I reach for the doorknob and turn it. It opens and I enter. The inside is just as homey as the outside. All the woodwork on the stairs and floors is original and well cared for. Although I see no people, the home seems lived in and kept in pristine condition. I find myself moving slowly from room to room, stopping in each and just taking it in. At times, I feel like someone is watching me, but no matter where I look, I'm alone. It all feels so real. I can even smell certain foods that were just made or wood burning from the fireplace in some of the visits to this dream home. In this visit, I climb the stairs to the second story, and, as usual, I am in awe of the home. I move to view even the guest bathroom. I am shocked to hear the toilet running, as if it were just flushed. I walk in just as the water is circling the bowl and going down. As per usual, I am alone, always alone. I dismiss it, because I am quite positive I am in a dream, and the normal laws of reality and physics do not apply. This beautiful home, why do you haunt and linger in my dreams? So, I wake up sometime between 3 and 4 in the morning, and decide to just stay awake since my normal wake-up time is 5. I walk into my kitchen and make a pot of coffee. After it is finished, I sit with my steaming cup at the dining table and reflect on the dream, as I have done so many times before. I don't know where the house is, and I wonder, have I seen this place before? Have I visited it or seen it on television? Did I see it as a kid, or did a friend describe it to me? Or maybe even on a postcard, or just anything? I try to rationalize it over and over in my mind as to why I keep dreaming of this house. This damn beautiful, perfect home, because that's exactly what it feels like. Home. I half consider calling my husband Tim, knowing he is awake by now, but I remember that he is probably sick to death of hearing about this home. He has dealt with me waking up countless times over the years, telling him about it with him patiently reassuring me it's just a dream. He even humors me by asking me to describe it and fantasizes with me about it. Bless his heart. He is a good, patient man. My husband is out of town, working. He designs and installs security systems for businesses, small and large. Recently, he got a contract for a series of office buildings somewhere in New England. I probably should just let him be and keep this one to myself. Not like he hasn't heard it before. Later during the day, I thought I would use my lunch break to doze off in my car and catch a quick power nap. I work as a pharmaceutical salesperson, so it's all hustle and bustle until it isn't. As I reclined the seat to my SUV, I began to doze off and, wouldn't you know it, I began to have the same dream again. This time I was pulled out of the beautiful fire orange, leaf-covered driveway by the ringing of my cell. It was Tim. "Hey baby, how's the trip going?" I asked. He is charming as always. "Hey, beautiful. It's going great. Just a few more days here and I'll be home. We sold 2 systems and got 3 of those new X19C cameras, put in all 22 offices and entrances of both buildings, so big commission. How was your night? You get some good sleep in," he replies. I smile even over the phone at him. "Yeah, it's okay so far. Woke up a little earlier than I wanted, dreamed about." I hesitate, not wanting to annoy him. "Somerville," he answers with a half chuckle over the phone. Somerville is the inside joke nickname we gave the house because it is such a frequent topic for us. Kind of a cute way of giving my make-believe estate a name. Sigh. "Yeah, I'm sorry, baby. I wasn't going to bring it up. I was just saying that I lost a couple hours of sleep." "No, it's actually fine because believe it or not that's." He pauses. I become intrigued. "Yeah, what is it, Tim?" He clears his throat. "Well, that's kind of why I called you. Actually," he answers nervously. I was in shock. "Did he dream it also?" "What do you mean? What about it?" I ask. "Well, I'm about to send you a picture, okay? But I want you to. Promise not to lose your shit when you see it." "Do you promise?" he asks, causing me to become alarmed, not knowing what I'm about to see. "Yes, baby, I promise." "What is it?" "You're freaking me out," I reply. I see a picture message pop up on my phone as he waits on the line. I swipe the notification up on the screen, bringing up the picture, and I almost have a heart attack. I let out a scream louder than I had expected, causing 2 women coming out of a Starbucks nearby to stare. It was the house. It was the house. The house I had been dreaming of for years, down to the last detail. The leaves, time of year, wrap-around porch, chairs, colors, windows, all of it was there. As if he had ripped it out of my mind, here I sat in my SUV staring at this home. I was so zoned out that I could barely hear him screaming into the phone. "Summer, Summer, are you there?" I snapped back to reality and placed the phone up to my ear once more. "Holy shit, Tim. That's it," I exclaimed. "Yeah, I know. I heard you describe it so many damn times I knew it. By heart just like you. Okay. Are you ready for the next picture? Now, before I send it, I need you to chill, okay? Just chill and don't freak," he says, knowing me well enough to know that it's useless. I see another picture notification pop up on my phone. I swipe it up and begin to sweat in my clothes. There is a for sale sign with a realtor's number and picture posted in front of the home. "Tim, what?" Where the hell is this? I ask, completely blown away. Well, as I was following my partner, Greg, back to the hotel, I decided to take another street because the GPS said there was a deli place not far away. Greg went on back to the room, but I went to get my sandwich, and along the path in this small town called Woodstock, Vermont, I see it. There, off the main road leading far down a private driveway with a ton of woods behind it, was the house. I was so blown away because of the dream you had so often that I turned in and, as luck would have it, the damn thing is for sale, he says. I'm beyond stunned. I don't know how or why, but I must see this home. I'm afraid to, however, because I may end up trying to purchase the damn thing. Before I can even ask, Tim is already a step ahead of me. Summer, do you have any vacation time at work? Sick days, anything? He asks. Yes, I want to be there, Tim. I need to be there, you know that. I know. I already bought you a ticket, the day after tomorrow. Make arrangements with work, and I will email you the ticket and info, baby, he replies. He knows how important this is to me, even if just to put it to rest. The time comes, and while I was getting my affairs in order with work and traveling to this Woodstock, Vermont, Tim was in contact with the realtor and making arrangements for a viewing. Tim picked me up from the airport, and we traveled directly to the home, not even stopping at the hotel for me to unload luggage or to freshen up. I couldn't wait a second longer. Tim told me on the way that the realtor was going to meet us there, along with the owners and their daughter. I was fine with this, of course, and excited to see the home. He also informed me that the owners had recently lowered the price of the home by an astounding $22,000. This seemed insane to me, as the land alone was nearly worth what they wanted for the home and land combined. I could not understand why it was so cheap, but I would soon find out. As we pulled into the driveway, I was having the most serious case of déjà vu I had ever had. It was like I had been here before 1,000 times over, no, several thousand. It was all the same, down to the letter, the exact same. The realtor was parked out front and standing on the wraparound porch waiting on us. She waved at us, smiling ear to ear for the possible interest and maybe even sale. If I am being honest, in my mind, the home was already mine. I got out and could barely wait on Tim. We met the realtor at the top of the steps. Hello, Mrs. Donovan, I presume. I am Tabitha, the realtor. I am pleased to meet you, she said while reaching out her hand to shake mine. She exchanged the same gesture to Tim and then stood in front of us, smiling. So, Mr. and Mrs. Burke are inside waiting to meet you too and show you around, if you'd like to say hello. I agreed, of course, excited to meet these amazing people who owned this amazing home, and mostly to get inside. Tabitha opened the door and motioned for us to enter in front of her. I walked in first and was shocked. There was no doubt this was the home. This was the home that had lived in my head, heart and dreams for so long. I was here. Finally, at long last, and against odds that I can't even begin to imagine. Not only was the home I had visited in my dreams real, but I was standing in it. Whatever those odds are, I'd take them to Vegas in a heartbeat. Tabitha said she would go and get the owners to meet us and then show us around, but I hardly needed her to. I knew this home, inside and out. I knew every step, board, corner and color. I had toured this home for years, but I waited for the couple selling it before I once again explored Somerville. An older couple with a young, teenage daughter turned the corner smiling to meet us. I reached out my hand to shake the woman's, but a strange look came over her face. It was a smile that turned into a half-forced smile. From there, it became a blank expression and then one of horror. This was not lost on the husband or daughter, who, at that point, screamed and ran out of the house through the front door behind us. I was taken aback, as was the realtor and Tim. What the hell was going on here? Mrs. Burke pulled back and was clutched by her husband, who was trying to calm her, even though he, himself, was clearly shaken. I was in shock. I didn't know what to say, but I tried. I'm so sorry. Are you all okay? Did we do or say something wrong? I asked, with even Tabitha at a loss for words. Mrs. Burke looked at me with a pale face and, through a trembling voice, replied, "It's you. You are her. You're the ghost. You have haunted this home and my family for so many years." Cecilia McLean lives alone in a historical manor home on the outskirts of Jupiter, Florida. She was from a well-to-do family that, unfortunately, had mostly died off. Only a few members remained, and they were spread throughout the country. Money had begun to dry up, and with it, the team of people needed to maintain the home, leaving the manor to begin to sink into being unattended. With the last of her savings, Cecilia is now kept company by only her caretaker and her beloved parrot, Pepper. Cecilia is a deaf-mute from birth, so twice a week, Stacy, her caretaker, stops in to check on her. It is welcome to Cecilia, as Stacy knows sign language, and she enjoys the conversation. Today is Monday and Stacy is due for a visit, so Cecilia is moving about the home, opening some windows to allow sunlight to pour into the tea room. Pepper is Cecilia's 23-year-old parrot and longtime friend from when she was just 17 years old. Pepper has long since stopped talking now, seeing as the only conversation Cecilia gets these days is in sign language, for obvious reasons. Cecilia moves into the tea room and in front of Pepper's perch. She pulls back the last of the shades and a sunbeam rests on Pepper's wings. She smiles at him and signs, "Good morning, Pepper." "Sleep well?" Pepper flaps his clipped wings quickly. Cecilia takes it as a sign he did. She calls it his stretches. Cecilia walks into the kitchen to put on a pot of coffee, but as she enters the pantry for filters, she can't seem to find them. Or the sugar, for that matter. She is confused and a bit frustrated. She scans the pantry once more and eventually finds them on top of the refrigerator. Not at all where she normally places them. About the time she gets the coffee on, finally, she feels her phone inside of her robe pocket vibrate. She unlocks her cell and sees a text from Stacy that she is pulling up. Cecilia enters into the entryway connecting the large staircase to the landing and follows it to the front door. She opens the door and is met with a hug from a smiling Stacy. Stacy signs to her, "Hey girl, sleeping late?" Cecilia nods and shrugs as she signs back, "Had a couple glasses of wine last night. Guess it did the trick." The two smile at one another as they turn and enter the home. Cecilia has become an expert lip reader, so communicating with her is not as difficult as one may think. If Cecilia can see your lips, she will know what you are saying with near pinpoint accuracy, and to top it off, the sign language only shortens that gap. Being born a deaf-mute has made life for her difficult, but Cecilia does not know it. This is the way it has always been for her. Stacy begins to go about her routine of checking the home for things Cecilia may have missed or may need doing. It's not so much that Cecilia needs a caretaker, as it is the company and companionship. Her condition isn't considered severe by those who share her physical disabilities. It is her chronic depression and anxiety disorders that keep her to herself and away from others. Losing her family tragically between a car accident, cancer, and the overdose of her brother is what has left her with a deep depression and anxiety disorder that, unfortunately, even years of therapy have done little to remedy. Stacy gathers some loose laundry and puts them in the wash. She enters the bathroom and notices Cecilia's conditioner on the highest shelf of the built-in shelves in the walk-in shower. Stacy finds this odd, as Cecilia is only 5'3", and it would take a minimum height of 5-10 inches to reach the shelf. Of course, Cecilia had a stepladder she could have used. Curious as to why she would go far out of her way to place her conditioner there, Stacy finds Cecilia outside on the back patio drinking some tea and decides to ask her, "Hey, love, why was your conditioner on the highest shelf?" "I had to use the toilet scrubber to knock it down," Stacy asks. Cecilia looks at her, confused. "What do you mean? Why would I put it up there?" She signs back, watching Stacy's lips intently for more info. Stacy shakes her head dismissively. Never mind. It's probably just nothing. Did you need to go to the store today?" Cecilia shakes her head. "And how is Pepper? Does our handsome man need anything?" Cecilia smiles. "He's been good. He loves pretzels, so next time you're in town, if you could remember, I know he'd just love you for it." The two carry on conversation throughout the morning and afternoon in between Stacy doing various small chores. Over lunch in the tea room overlooking the front yard, Cecilia cannot contain her curiosity any longer and questions Stacy. "Stacy, last time you were here, why did you put the coffee filters and sugar way up on top of the fridge?" Stacy is dumbfounded. She knows Cecilia is short, and she knows full well the pantry items belong in the pantry, seeing as, even though the house is unkempt, Cecilia still has anxiety over things being out of place. Also, she understands her height and would not purposely place items so high up. All this adds more mystery to the fact that the conditioner in the bathroom was so high up. Oh, Cecilia, I don't remember doing that. If I did, I must have had a brain fart, the likes of which I never had, Stacy replies with a chuckle and a grin, bringing a relaxed smile to Cecilia. Cecilia signs, "It's probably just me anyway. The new antidepressants the doctors have me on are probably making me go even more insane. I might be sleepwalking now and don't know it. Poor Pepper has to put up with my nonsense." In truth, Cecilia has noticed quite a few other oddities around her home that she cannot explain, other than possibly blaming it on her and the reaction to the medication. It must be her, unless Pepper has learned to open doors and perform complex actions that require thumbs. She has found fruit with bites taken out of it and left in various places in the home. On one occasion, she found an old record player that had been playing for what may have been days, given that the machine was hot to the touch when she finally noticed it. Even some of her clothing was in different places, including a pair of her panties that was shoved under her pillow. Cecilia feels as though she is losing her mind. Stacy notices the sadness in Cecilia. She reaches over and grabs her hand and smiles. Cecilia runs her fingernails gently along Pepper's back, causing the bird to quiver with pleasure. They both laugh at the display, then to Stacy's surprise, Pepper makes an unnerving sound. The bird begins to moan and seem to mimic the sound of heavy breathing. Stacy is taken back and looks at Cecilia. She obviously did not hear it, causing Stacy to believe that maybe Cecilia does indeed sleepwalk now. The two share a few more words until it is time for Stacy's shift to end. She bids her friend and client farewell, and little Pepper also. She sees Cecilia staring out the window as she pulls out of the driveway. Early in the pre-dawn hours of the next morning, Stacy hears her phone ringing and vibrating on her nightstand. She strains to open her eyes and feels around in the dark next to her nightstand until she finds the phone. The display reads 2:30 am and the call is from Cecilia. Worried Stacy answers the phone. She is met with frantic, panicked breathing and grunting, the grunting a non-verbal person would make when trying to convey information, but their limitations won't allow. She hears a muffled sound in the background and more grunting and moaning until the phone hangs up, disconnecting the call. Stacy urgently gets dressed and heads for her car. She rushes over to Cecilia's home, worrying for her client and friend. The home is dark inside and Stacy is afraid. She cautiously approaches the door, repeatedly hitting the dial button on her phone as she tries to reach Cecilia inside. Stacy finally decides it is in the best interest of Cecilia to just enter the home and removes the spare key given to her by Cecilia in case of an emergency. She opens the front door and enters slowly, not sure as to what she will find. It is dark all throughout the home, which is odd, because Cecilia would never turn every light out. She would never want to keep Pepper in the dark. She opens her cell phone to provide light as she reaches for a switch in the hallway leading upstairs. She hears noises coming from the master bedroom, Cecilia's room, and rushes in. It's Pepper who is seemingly making noises as he stands on the end of her bed. Stacy turns on the light and is shocked to find Cecilia lying in bed. She reaches over to shake her and wake her from her peaceful slumber. Cecilia does not move. For someone who has adapted to a life of being a light sleeper, she's disturbingly unresponsive and still. Now, in the full throes of worry, Stacy leans in closer to find Cecilia is not breathing. Cecilia is dead. Stacy panics and with shaky, fumbling hands dials 911. She frantically reports the findings and hangs up, now crying. She wonders if Cecilia had taken a toxic mix of medication or if something else had happened. She notices a strange, red mark around Cecilia's shoulder blade that is visible through her nightgown. She reaches over and moves the fabric aside and horror fills her body. There are red and black bruises around her neck and collarbone. It is the markings of someone who was strangled. She opens Cecilia's eyes and screams when she sees busted blood vessels. Stacy is now in hysterics, which turns to delirious fear when she hears Pepper speak. "How beautiful. I love watching you sleep. You are so soft, Cecilia," Pepper repeats in his squawking voice, followed by him mimicking sounds of Cecilia grunting and trying to scream. It seems Pepper had learned new words from someone in the house. 6:17 p.m. That's when it finally stopped snowing long enough for the services to continue. Everyone had been waiting inside of the old church for Travis Walker's final respects. I wish they had picked a different spot, but in reality, I know this is all we have here. The old Fisherman's Chapel in Maidens Point was renovated in the 60s into a slightly more roomy church. It's hard for a lot of them to be in here on such an occasion. For some of the older fixtures of Maidens Point, this place has been the spot of marriages, countless Sunday services, and now, because of the snow, another funeral. I would normally be sitting front row. Travis was, however, my best friend and business partner. Today though, seeing how everyone turns their noses up at me, looks away, or flat out ignores me makes me feel like my spot in the back is appropriate. Everyone gets up and begins to pour out of the aging church and towards Maidens Point Cemetery, a couple of streets over. Some get into their cars while the others simply walk the short distance. We all arrive around the cryptic-looking rectangular hole dug for Travis. The keepers and cemetery had done the best they could to make it look like more than it really was, but it's useless. In the end, the maroon fabrics and silver bracings do little to disguise the inevitable truth that this is just a hole, a grave we will lower Travis' coffin in and cover with dirt. There, everyone gathers around and sits. Those too upset or elderly to take the strain of bending knees stand and words are spoken. Travis' sister, mother, and wife speak their shaky last words for and to Travis. Over the silent weeping and sniveling, I couldn't ignore that I was never asked to say any words. I had spent my entire life here with Travis, but still, even now, I understood. The fact that we were best friends doesn't give me any leeway. It does nothing to alleviate guilt or blame. In fact, it is the opposite. It makes it all the more worse. So yes, even now I accept the cold shoulder and harsh treatment from lifelong friends. 2 days prior, Travis and I were on the boat together on a routine outing following a massive school of halibut. The damn things kept drifting out further and further. Travis wanted to head back since a storm was coming in towards us as we headed out, but I insisted. It had been weeks since we had pulled in a haul, not half this size, and I let money fill the void in my mind where sense should have been. Against his nagging, I pressed on. I got my fish only to lose them right back to the sea when the storm sat on us. The 26-foot dual 4-stroke boat couldn't do much against the storm, and it wasn't long before we found ourselves with one stalled engine and taking on water. The end result of this storm found our boat capsized and our catch lost back to the sea. The last thing I remembered before losing consciousness was being in the cold Alaskan waters. I could see my life's work and my father's before me sinking with the twilight, my boat. I awoke inside of a small room inside of our town's hospital. I was still cold, but the sounds of voices took my attention. It was Roberta and James, Travis' mother and father. They were talking to someone about Travis, but crying as well. I got up slowly and walked to my cracked hospital room door and peeked out. As I pressed my face through the narrow space nervously, filled with a sickness inside my stomach, I could see a person blur past me. Travis! Travis! Oh my God, is that Travis? The woman screamed through tears as she ran towards the room. Travis' father grabbed and held her tight as she cried into his shoulder. It was Natalie, Travis' wife. She sobbed uncontrollably, and it was then, through the door, I could see it all too clear. The doctor exited the room, and as the door opened and closed behind him, I could see Travis lying on the hospital bed. They said he had been dead for a while now, and they just needed family to identify the body, even though they all knew who it was. Hell, some of the nurses even went to school with Travis and me. A sheriff exited the room after the doctor, and a quieter conversation began to take place, one that filled me with even more dread, if that were possible. This all happened so fast. Travis and I must have just been plucked from the water no more than 3 hours ago, and already they knew. Travis' wife had protested us going out. She saw the reports. Hell, we all did. She knew a storm was coming in. Travis tried to stop me from going as well as Natalie. She was angry with me for forcing Travis to go. I didn't have a choice, that's what I told myself. I was having a hard time even covering fuel prices, much less paying Travis. We needed the catch, so I insisted, and he came. Now she is going to tell Abel, Maiden's Point sheriff, that I am responsible, that I killed Travis. To be fair, she's not wrong. I did. And looking back on it now, that is the exact reason I ran. Filled with a mix of panic, guilt, and shame, I ran clear out of the hospital room wearing nothing but the patient robes they put me in. I didn't stop to look back, to see them chasing me, or who was looking. I simply ran through one of the hospital's side exits past a maintenance closet, knocking over a mop bucket along the way. I ran into the cold past all the familiar streets and into an alleyway behind Nelson's, a local diner where Travis and Natalie went on their first date. What a place to stop. What a reminder of what I had done. The entire damn town was there to mock me, to remind me of the cowardly bastard I was for killing my best friend and the closest thing to family I had left alive. My heavy breathing and heart pounding was only stifled by the sound of coughing behind me. I turn around, hugging the old wooden wall next to a gas meter to find a dark, old, shaggy man sitting next to a pile of boxes Nels had placed by the dumpster. The man was old, frail looking, and maybe 67 years old. He had the look of a malnourished person, or even a cancer patient. His face was kind of sunken in with black around the eyes. His graying, dark eyebrows were unkempt, and his beard told of a life once spent at sea. This old salt-turned beggar simply stares at me, slightly grinning and holding out trembling arms with skin hanging from them. With open hands, his lifeless eyes ask for whatever I have to give him. In my cowardly act of running, I forgot I had left all my belongings behind. All I wore now was my hospital gown and the necklace my father gave to me as a boy. 2 silver obols he had taken while fishing off the coast of Greece. He had a hole punched through them and placed an old leather string through to make a necklace for me. Dad was the one who taught me the way of the sea, taught me how to not only live off of her, but make money as well. It was my dad that gave me the twilight that now sits at the bottom of the Alaskan Ocean. I didn't just fail my father, but now I killed my best friend, and the only one who doesn't seem to care is this damned old bum. I don't have anything to give you, friend. I don't think you'd want anything to do with me if you knew what's best for you. Adrenaline began to subside, and I could now feel the cold as only Maiden's Point could deliver. I had to get home, so I ran again from the side of Nelson's, and from the beggar to my trailer that sat on the outskirts of town. Thankfully, darkness was coming, and, being the coward I now am, I could remain more easily hidden. I did the best I could at sticking to darkness, and my trip across town nearly went uneventful. That is, until I had to cross Jefferson Avenue, and a damn SUV nearly ran me down. The driver never blew the horn, never yelled, or even slowed down. Despite headlights clearly being on me, I had to throw myself into a nearby collection of garbage cans outside of the drugstore to avoid being hit. The SUV continued down the street without missing a beat. I stood up and ran again. I looked over my shoulder, and to my surprise, Gail, the clerk at the drugstore, was standing outside. She always took too many smoke breaks and must have been outside when that car tried to run me down. She never looked my way, never called out. Not once. She simply stood over the garbage cans I had knocked over and shook her head before beginning to pick them up. I guess word travels fast of what happened. The town had already begun to turn on me, and if I must admit, it's rightfully earned. I made it to my trailer and had to damn near kick my own door in, seeing as I left my keys behind. The weather was starting to turn sour in a real way. It was now snowing and the temperature drop was damn fast. I went into my bedroom and threw on clothes. Some jeans, a sweater, and a thick coat. I began to pace around as a sickness started to grow inside my stomach. The weight and severity of what I had done was setting in, and I wondered why they still have not come. Why have the sheriff and his deputies not come to arrest me yet? Why was no one looking for me? By now, everyone had to know what had happened. In Maiden's Point, you can't sneeze at the supermarket without someone at the bar blessing you. I sat, paced, and looked out my window for hours and well into night until I finally gave in to exhaustion. I must have slept the entire day and night because, when I awoke, it was nearly sunset again. I stood up and once again peered out of the window over my trailer's kitchen sink. Still nothing and no one. Just the snow weights outside. I could feel my stomach churning with a mix of fear, pain over Travis, and guilt, but mostly the overbearing feeling of hunger. I grabbed a small stack of 20s I kept in a mason jar under the sink and walked outside into the frigid temperatures. It was just about the time that the stores in town would close, so I cursed under my breath that I didn't have the keys to my truck that was right in front of me. I took my chances with the snow and walked as fast as I could to Stan's gas station around the corner. I walked in and the place was a ghost town, other than Danielle, the overnight clerk. She sat behind the counter with some kind of gossip or celebrity magazine pressed against her face and didn't even notice me. Probably for the best, because I was almost certain that if anyone in Maiden's Point would be first to confront me, it would be Travis' wife, Natalie, followed closely behind by the 22-year-old, fiery Danielle. I walked straight to the prepackaged sandwiches and grabbed a chicken salad on wheat. I turned to approach the counter and grew nervous. Danielle was still enthralled by her celebrity worship, judging by the cover titled "Why You Totally Want to Be Bad and Spend 1985 in Detention with Judd Nelson." I knew that I would only make her angrier by seeing me. She had a thing for Travis. Even if he was older and married, it didn't stop her mind and eyes from wandering to him whenever the two were in close proximity. I just stood there, lost in thought and amazement at myself. My best friend is dead, and his family and friends were destroyed by my choice to go out, and here I am in the gas station buying a goddamn sandwich. I began to walk to the counter past the old, stale donuts when the telephone behind Danielle rang. She turned away from me and answered it. The tone was easily recognizable, and talk of the town was in short supply, so I could tell where was going. "Stans, this is Danielle. What can I do you for?" she asks in a silly tone. She continued her conversation as I listened. "Yeah, I heard. I tried to talk to Natalie, but her dad said she's just too upset, and I totally get it. No, it was Adam. Yeah, Adam. He made Travis go out. Something about not being able to pay him. I guess he threatened him or something. I know. Yeah, that's what I said also. If Travis and Natalie weren't pregnant, Travis would have told him to go to hell, or at least I would have. Yeah, I heard. I'm going to ask if we can close the store Tuesday so I can be at Travis's funeral." I felt my heart sink in my chest. Travis never told me that Natalie was pregnant. What in God's name have I done? I walked right out of the store with the sandwich in my hand. I didn't mean to steal it. Hell, I wasn't even hungry now. I just simply forgot I had it. Danielle was still on the phone with her back towards me as I left, but I wasn't going back in. As I walked past the gas pumps, there in the cold was the old beggar man again. He simply smiled and, once again, with shaky, thinning hands raised them up to me, palms side up and open. All I could do was hand him the sandwich. I placed it in his hand, and he looked at me confused. "Enjoy it, old-timer. I don't think I can eat ever again," I said with a remorse I didn't know was possible. I headed back for my trailer, looking back over my shoulder one more time through the snowfall only to see the sandwich on the ground and the old man gone. I guess he wanted money for booze instead. I shrugged it off and headed back inside my trailer. My warm trailer where I would be comfortable while Travis laid on some cold slab in a hospital. I decided that night that I would stop running and hiding, that I would go and pay my respects to Travis at the funeral and throw my fate at the feet of the people he loved most. I know it seems like a damn shitty thing to do, to show up there, but I loved Travis too. He was my best friend and brother, and his final moments should be mine as well. I will let them decide what to do with me. Anything is better than this. Present. Passage. Yes, I understand and accept the treatment I get. Pretend I don't exist, but I'm here. Standing in the back behind everyone and against this shed, Travis knows I'm here. At least. I can't forgive myself for what I have done, but I will make it right. Tonight I will go to Natalie and Travis' unborn child, and I will tell her I'm sorry. She deserves to say her piece to me before I walk straight into the sheriff's office and give myself over to whatever fate I well deserved. I don't want to be here anymore. My soul went to the bottom of that icy water, along with Travis' life and the twilight. Even if I wanted to start over, I couldn't. There's nothing left here now. I should have went to the bottom. At least then some kind of justice would have been gained. The universe would right its wrong, or at the very least, these people wouldn't have to look at me anymore. I make sure to leave before everyone else, and as I close the cemetery gate behind me, there he is. Holding out his frail old hands, he He smiles from behind his scruffy, grey beard and dead eyes. I find my patience growing thin with the old man. "I don't have money for you to drink, old man. My best friend is dead, do you understand?" I yell at him. He simply nods and smiles while holding out his hand still. I curse under my breath and make my way into town. The snow is returning, and, with it, nightfall as well. Before I head to Natalie's, and then the sheriff's to face the music, I want one last drink. I walk up to the old, red brick door of Mickey's Tavern and stand still. I can hear the old jukebox playing and a few voices inside. I brace myself and enter. As I open the door and step through, a gust of wind grasps the door and swings it open hard. Cold, snowy air sweeps inside the bar, and the 4 people inside turn and stare in my direction. They wear a surprised expression on their faces, and I hang my head in shame. Mick walks from behind the bar, a large man and serious disposition. He walks right towards me, and I step to the side, allowing him to reach the door. He doesn't say a word, he just reaches up with a thick arm and grabs the door, slamming it behind him. He looks towards me with a serious face, and then to the bar before heading back behind it. Everyone begins to laugh in a kind of joined-in chuckle, turning back towards the bar. I stand there for a long while, confused, but eventually I walk to the furthest bar stool and sit down. I raise my eyes and stare in Mick's direction, hoping he sees me. I don't know at this point if I want a beer or to have my ass kicked. I wasn't sure which would feel better. After half an hour of them all jawing away and ignoring me, I decide I will take my last drink myself. I reach behind the bar and grab a beer from the cooler when Mick and the others aren't looking. I drink it down fast and pull a wad of bills from my pocket and sat them on the bar before grabbing another for myself. I won't steal again like I did with the sandwich. I may be a murderer, but I guess I'm not a thief. As if it matters now. I walk out of the bar holding the unopened beer and decide to head to Natalie's now. No more running, no more dancing around what we all know, no more hiding. Becoming less of a shock and more of an annoyance, I see none other than the old beggar outside the bar. Not breaking repetition, he holds out his hands. Shaking from the cold or age, I do not know, but he gives me the same sick grin as before. I hand him the beer, and to my surprise, it seems as though this too is unwanted. I have no time for this poor old soul. All I want is for this all to end, one way or another. The walk to Natalie and Travis' place isn't far, but it is damn sure cold. The snow is falling heavy and making it hard to see. I reach her place and knock on the door with trembling arms, and it's not from the cold. I knock again a bit harder, as I'm sure she can't hear over the storm and the loud music I hear inside. Still no answer, so now I knock and yell, "Natalie, it's Adam. Natalie, it was me. I know what I did, please let me in." I bang on the door again, becoming more emotional. It's like a faucet. Once it opens, it can't be turned off. I need this to end, and she deserves closure. I bang again, harder on the door. "Natalie, I know about the baby. I know what I took from you. Please, I'm so sorry, Natalie." I reach for the doorknob in my emotional state and turn it. To my surprise, it opens. I cautiously step inside out of the cold and can hear the music. Could it be I'm Falling in Love by the Carpenters is blaring from the radio in the living room? It was one of Natalie and Travis' favorite songs. I step into the living room and see Natalie lying on the sofa, still wearing her clothes from the funeral. I walk over and turn the radio down a bit, then return my attention to Natalie, who is fast asleep. She has her arms wrapped around her belly and has tissues lying about on the floor beside her. She has been crying a lot, to no surprise. I begin to reach over to wake her and stop in my tracks. A cold sweat begins to form on my brow, and I feel something like panic building within me. My eyes fix on today's issue of Maiden's Watch, the local small newspaper. The headline and picture create a primal fear inside of me. 2 local fishermen dead in storm. The caption sits just above a picture of 2 familiar faces. I step backwards and knock over the glass of wine Natalie had on the coffee table. She stirs and sits up, looking right in my direction. I feel a fear and darkness I had never known in my entire life as her teary eyes fall on me. She simply begins sobbing again and turns over, facing the back of the sofa once more. "Natalie, I stand up and run out the front door. I run into the freezing cold Maidens Point streets covered with snow. I have no idea where I'm going, but I end up inside of a phone booth. There, squatting on the floor against the cold glass, I hear the dial tone of the receiver I had knocked off the hook when I entered. I pick it up and dial for the sheriff. It's late, so I know it will be one of the deputies. I don't really care. I just want them to come take me. I am ready for this nightmare to end. Damned nightmare. Just take me. Must be a Maidens Point Sheriff's Office. This is Deputy Hall. How may I assist you? She asks. This is Adam Serling. I killed Travis Walker. I made him go out in the storm. I took him from Natalie and his baby. I confess through tears now falling into my mouth. It is quiet on the line for several seconds until the deputy replies, "Sir, are you okay? Who is this?" I shake my head and continue trying to speak from my broken voice. This is Adam Serling. I'm ready. Come get me. Please, come get me. I'm here and I won't run anymore. The deputy is quiet again for a bit longer, leaving me to cry alone into the phone. She finally replies, delivering a truth I had tried to deny. "Sir, is this a joke? Travis Walker and Adam Serling were killed out at sea. Both bodies were recovered." It becomes still. I can't respond, as I feel so strange now. I stand up and all I hear now is the snow, wind, and faint voices of the deputy informing me that crank calling the sheriff's office is a crime. I walk out of the phone booth and to where I now know I belong. My mind accepting the truth I had run from all this time. No one had ignored me. The gas station, the bar, the hospital. No one had ignored me or given me the cold shoulder. No one had come looking for me because I never was. The sensation I have is one I had not known. I don't think it is one any living soul could know. It is one of empty, one of nothingness, one of acceptance. And my mind is given a destination that compels my body to follow. I walk through the flurry of snow that is now nearly blinding, yet I feel no cold. I feel nothing. I approach the docks that are eerily empty except one vessel tied off to the far post. The boat I cannot make out clearly, only the man standing beside it. I know this man. This time he seems different somehow. It is the same man, I am sure, yet here he is in this snowstorm standing stronger and less feeble. His eyes still are dead empty and his beard still unkempt. I approach him and he holds out his hand, palm side up, waiting for payment. I somehow know what he wants. I don't know how, but I know the purpose of this old man. I reach up to my neck and untie the necklace my father had given me long ago. I place the 2 silver Greek obols strung with an old leather string into his hand. He closes it and nods at me with dimly glowing yellow eyes. He motions for me to board his boat and I oblige, for I know my destination now. The old wooden boat from an age long lost groans in the wind and cold. As it moves out to the cold sea, the name of the boat can faintly be seen burned into the wood before vanishing in the cold and foggy waters. Charon. Six-year-old Madison Pike is at her most favorite place in the world today, as she is twice a week now for nearly a year. This simple park is nothing extraordinary. It has the standard swing sets, jungle gym, seesaws, slides and sand pits. Madison sits alone on the swing set with her little legs dangling below her. Madison is being watched by a woman who sits alone on a bench just 20 feet away scrolling about on her smartphone. Madison tugs at the hair tie in her ear-length blonde hair and wraps it around her wrist, allowing her hair to fall down her face. She brushes it aside and looks into the distance for something or someone. Before long, a lone woman walks from behind the park restroom area and towards Madison. "Hey, Maddie, have you been waiting long?" The soft-featured woman asks while sitting down in the swing next to Madison. "No, just a little bit. But Haley got me ice cream before we came." The woman smirks and shrugs as she looks over her shoulder towards the woman on the bench, who is now staring in Madison's direction. "She did, huh? Yeah, so that's why you can't sleep at night, I bet." Madison shakes her little head. "No, I can't sleep because I have dreams." The woman looks at her curiously. "What about, baby?" The little girl has a troubled expression come over her face. "Is Dad ever going to come visit?" "Honey, he wants to, it's just. Give him some more time, okay? He misses you a lot, but I know he will soon." Noticing Madison's disposition evolving into sadness, the woman changes the subject. So baby, what have you and Haley been doing? How has school been? Madison perks up a bit. It's been good. There is a boy named Gage who let me have some of his army men, and I have been playing dinosaurs and soldiers. The woman smiles. That sounds awesome. Wanna show me? Madison hops off of the swing and grabs a pink dinosaur backpack and prepares to head to the sand pit. But a call from the woman on the bench stops her. Madison, time to go. Madison looks down disappointed, and so does the woman. Why can't I go home with you? Madison asks as she drops her backpack to one hand. The woman looks over at the woman on the bench. I'm sorry, baby. Haley is just looking out for you. She loves you lots is all. Why doesn't she ever talk to you? Madison asks. The woman shakes her head. She just doesn't really like the way I live. The choices I made are why you have to live with her, and even though I have changed, or I'm trying to change, your Aunt Haley doesn't really forgive as easy as you, baby. Madison looks up mournfully as the woman moves in to try and hug the little girl. A louder, more serious tone from Haley back at the bench brings her to a stop. Madison Pike now. Madison slings her backpack and runs several feet in the direction of Aunt Haley, but stops and turns around. Mom, next time I'll show you my army men. The woman smiles and waves. You better. Now get going before your aunt kills us both. The little girl meets her aunt, and the two disappear into a silver SUV and soon out of sight. That night, Madison is under her covers in her bed, unable to sleep as usual lately. Haley, walking past her room, notices a light illuminating from under the covers of little Maddie. She walks in and pulls them back, revealing a bloody battle taking place. Dozens of brave soldiers have fallen to reptiles from ages long past. Madison, it's midnight. What are you even doing up still? Haley exclaims as she begins picking up the green plastic army men and dinosaurs. Madison looks up apologetically and lies down properly after turning off the flashlight. I'm sorry, Aunt Haley. I just couldn't sleep and I wanted to play a bit. Haley finishes tucking Maddie in and begins to stroke her hair gently with her hand. Madison, I saw you talking again at the park today. Madison remains quiet, but troubled. Haley continues, Maddie, look, Squirt, I know you love and miss your mom, but you understand why I have you, don't you? Madison looks mournful, because Mom is sick and couldn't change. No, baby, she could change, but she didn't. She made her choices, and this is what it led to. The judges and everyone knew that I was the safest place for you to be. Do you understand that? Madison nods her head, not really understanding, but knowing it would get her aunt to stop interrogating her for the night. It's just not healthy for you to keep seeing and talking to her. Even, I think about her and want to talk to her every day, but when I think of what she did, what could have happened to you because of her choices, I get so angry that I don't even want to see her, much less talk to her. I know that may sound awful, but one day you will understand, Maddie. Haley continues stroking her hair and Madison's eyes grow heavy. Haley notices and takes the cue to exit the room quietly and allow the little girl to sleep finally. Several days go by and the time has come for Madison's trip to the park once more. She arrives with backpack in hand, but this time her mother is already there standing at the swing sets. Madison runs over towards her. Hey Mom, I got something for us today, she exclaims while catching her breath and reaching into her backpack. Her mother smiles and politely waves at her sister, Haley, who is standing by the benches. Haley shakes her head and scowls, ignoring the gesture. Well, your aunt is chipper today, isn't she? She states as she returns her attention to Madison, who produces 2 Lunchables snacks from her backpack. I thought today we could have lunch together and I could show you my soldiers and stuff, Madison says, bringing a smile to her mum's face. That would be awesome, baby. Want to go to the sandbox? I'll race you. The woman exclaims as she begins half-heartedly running towards the sandbox, allowing Madison's little legs to get the better of her. The two arrive out of breath and plop down into the sand. Madison opens a pizza Lunchables and opens one up for her mom. She then meticulously creates a pizza from the available ingredients inside and takes a bite, causing her mum to smile. So kiddo, let's see these soldiers, her mum says. Madison excitedly reaches into her bag and pulls out a dozen green, plastic army men and stands them up in the sand. Then she pulls out the toy dinosaurs and begins to bury them in the sand in various places. Maddie's mom becomes confused as she chuckles. Why bury them, Squirt? "'Cause, Mom, they need to be excavated. The soldiers have to find them and make a dig," she replies as if her mom should have known. Her mom giggles and smiles. "Ah, duh, okay, I'll help." The two play for a long while before Aunt Haley is once again calling for Madison. "Mom, I have to go again," she says with a somber look on her face once more. Her mum smiles, trying to cheer her up. "I know, baby. Do what your aunt says, and we will be right here again in no time, I promise." Madison stands up and shoulders her backpack. "Mom, you didn't eat anything." Madison's mom looks down, completely forgetting the snack. "I'm sorry, baby. I'll have mine later. Besides, it has a crunch bar for dessert. That's my favorite," she replies, causing Madison to smile. She begins to walk away and stops. She turns around to face her mum once more. "Mom, Aunt Haley wants me to stop seeing you. She says it's not good for me, and the whole reason we can't be together anyway is because of the things you did." Madison's mom looks down and then back at her. "She's right, baby. I did a lot of dumb things. Your dad and I choose drugs and a pretty bad life, and that's why the courts gave you to Aunt Haley. But I will do all I can for however long it takes to make up for that. I will be with you again one day, and I know your aunt won't hate me forever. I'll prove it to her also. I promise." "Madison, time to go," Haley yells as she stands up and heads for the SUV. "Better go, Squirt. I love you." Madison turns and begins to run towards her aunt, but yells out over her shoulder, "I love you too, Mom." The visits proceed as usual, but Haley becomes increasingly agitated with Madison's need to visit the park and her mother. It is now a beautiful Saturday evening, and the sun is beginning to set. Madison sits on the swing set once more with her head drooped and her legs dangling just below. Madison seems sad, something her mother picks up on as she approaches her daughter and takes the seat to her side. She looks over her shoulder and notices a woman sits down next to Haley on the bench as she watches her own kid at the jungle gym. The two begin to talk amongst themselves. Madison's mother looks back to Maddie. "Hey, Squirt. Penny for your thoughts." Madison raises her head and forces a smile. "Hey, Mom, let's go dig up dinos again," she says as she hops off the swing and bolts for the sandbox. Maddie's mom rolls her eyes, smiles, and runs after her. The two talk and play for a long while when Madison begins to talk less and less. She becomes sad and her entire disposition changes. Her mother picks up on this and wastes no time. "Okay, Squirt, out with it. What's going on?" she asks. Maddie looks down as she picks up sand, drops it, and repeats, "Dad isn't ever going to come, is he?" She states more than asks. Her mom is silent for a second, not sure what to say or where this is coming from. She shakes it off to comfort her daughter. "Of course he is, baby. He's just..." She is cut off by Madison. "He didn't want me." Madison's mom is quiet again before she speaks. "Baby, where did you hear this? Of course he does. He just..." She's cut off once more. "Mom, Aunt Haley told me the truth. She told me everything. About you, about Dad, about what happened, and why I live with Aunt Haley now." Back at the park bench, the woman who is sitting next to Haley can't help but notice little Madison's predicament, as she is clearly agitated. "Well, she's sure giving them hell," she giggles as she speaks to Haley. Haley nods and the woman presses, now interested. "So, who is it?" Haley looks over at her, and then at Madison in the sandbox. "Who is what?" Haley replies. The woman nods in Madison's direction. Her imaginary friend she's talking to. "With my son, it was a green and black donkey. I think it was some damn thing he saw on a game or something. Took us a year to get him off it, thank Christ. So, who is it for your little girl there? Who is her imaginary friend?" Haley stares intently at Madison. "It's my sister Hannah, her mother." The woman is stunned and then becomes saddened, realizing what has happened. "Oh God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." The woman tries to apologize as she curses herself a fool. Haley shakes her head. "No, it's okay. My sister and Madison's father, Aaron, were like fire and gasoline. Both on drugs, and even getting pregnant didn't change that. She used on and off while carrying Madison, but at the end, Aaron decided he wanted to continue the party and left completely. This pushed my sister over the edge. She loved the son of a bitch. She overdosed not far from this very park, soon after a heavy relapse, and by some miracle, the doctors were able to get Madison out. Courts gave me custody. The woman is stunned at the revelation and heartbroken as well. And Madison, was she okay? Did the drug use affect her at all? The woman asks. Haley nods at Madison once more. Other than that they're talking to her mom, it seems like a miracle she is okay. Doctors don't know if it's something wrong, or just her own way of dealing with it all, a way to be with the mother she never knew. Back at the sandbox, Madison has just finished revealing what her Aunt Haley has told her. That's why Aunt Haley says, I need to stop talking to my imaginary friend. Madison's mom, now upset, leans up to her knees next to Madison. This is bullshit, baby. I don't know what she told you, but it's not true. Your dad and I love you very much, and you are 6 years old. Having an imaginary friend is normal. Madison stands up and shoulders her backpack after collecting her dinos and soldiers. Mom, you are my imaginary friend. It's you, Mom. Madison replies, looking down. Her mother shakes her head and reaches out to grab her hand. Baby, listen to me, She reaches for Madison's arm, but it's as useful as grabbing at smoke. Her face becomes cold as tears form in her eyes. She has no more words. Madison looks at her mother kneeling down motionless and still as she processes it all. I love you, Mommy. And one day, if you ever see Dad, tell him it's okay and I miss him. Aunt Haley loves you too. She is just hurt that you can't be with us. I have to go now, Mom. Madison meets her aunt, and the two enter the SUV together. Madison peers over the back seat one last time as the vehicle drives away. She sees her mother standing at the swing set in the park staring at her as they vanish down the drive. Courts gave me custody. The woman is stunned at the revelation and heartbroken as well. And Madison, was she okay? Did the drug use affect her at all? The woman asks. Haley nods at Madison once more. Other than that they're talking to her mom, it seems like a miracle she is okay. Doctors don't know if it's something wrong, or just her own way of dealing with it all, a way to be with the mother she never knew. Back at the sandbox, Madison has just finished revealing what her Aunt Haley has told her. That's why Aunt Haley says, I need to stop talking to my imaginary friend. Madison's mom, now upset, leans up to her knees next to Madison. This is bullshit, baby. I don't know what she told you, but it's not true. Your dad and I love you very much, and you are 6 years old. Having an imaginary friend is normal. Madison stands up and shoulders her backpack after collecting her dinos and soldiers. Mom, you are my imaginary friend. It's you, Mom. Madison replies, looking down. Her mother shakes her head and reaches out to grab her hand. Baby, listen to me, She reaches for Madison's arm, but it's as useful as grabbing at smoke. Her face becomes cold as tears form in her eyes. She has no more words. Madison looks at her mother kneeling down motionless and still as she processes it all. I love you, Mommy. And one day, if you ever see Dad, tell him it's okay and I miss him. Aunt Haley loves you too. She is just hurt that you can't be with us. I have to go now, Mom. Madison meets her aunt, and the two enter the SUV together. Madison peers over the back seat one last time as the vehicle drives away. She sees her mother standing at the swing set in the park staring at her as they vanish down the drive.